The sun was shining bright that afternoon, and the city park was full of children laughing and playing. Swings moved back and forth, balls rolled across the grass, and parents sat on benches watching their kids. Among them was a girl named Amara, a quiet 16-year-old with warm brown skin, curly hair tied back, and sharp, kind eyes. She often came to this park after school to read her books and dream of a better future. Amara didn't have much. Her clothes were clean but old, and her shoes had a little tear on one side. Still, she carried herself with confidence. She believed that even if you had little, you could still walk with pride. She sat under a big oak tree with her book open, but her attention was soon caught by a strange sound, laughter. But not the good kind. Across the playground, 3 teenage boys were standing around a small boy in a wheelchair. The boy looked scared. His hands were shaking as one of the bullies snatched his cap and tossed it away. "Come on, spin those wheels, hero," one boy mocked, laughing loudly while the others joined in. The small boy tried to reach for his hat, but one of the bullies kicked it further away. Amara's chest tightened. She couldn't stand people who picked on someone weaker. She looked around. Adults were nearby, but nobody was doing anything. Some saw it and looked away. Some even whispered but didn't move. Amara closed her book slowly, took a deep breath, and stood up. She walked toward them, her steps firm but calm. "Hey," she shouted. The boys turned. Her voice was strong even though her heart was racing. "Leave him alone," the tallest boy smirked. "And who's gonna make us, you?" He laughed, looking at his friends. "Go home, little girl. This is none of your business," but Amara didn't back away. She stepped between them and the boy in the wheelchair, spreading her arms wide like a shield. "It is my business when someone's getting hurt," she said, her eyes steady. The bullies laughed again, but there was something in her tone, courage that made them hesitate. The smallest bully tried to scare her. "You better move or you'll regret it." Amara looked him straight in the eyes. "You already should," she replied softly but firmly. The silence that followed felt heavy. Then, seeing people starting to look their way, the boys muttered and backed off. "Whatever," one of them said before they walked away, kicking the dirt in frustration. When they were gone, Amara turned around and bent down to the boy. "Are you okay?" she asked gently. The boy, maybe 10 years old, nodded shyly. "Thank you," he said in a small voice. "They always tease me because I can't walk fast enough." Amara smiled. "You don't have to thank me. They were just cowards." She picked up his cap from the ground, dusted it off, and placed it back on his head. "You look better now," she said, trying to make him smile. He did, a small, nervous smile that soon turned real. She pushed his wheelchair toward the swings and asked his name. "Ethan," he said quietly. "And you?" "Amara," she replied. "Nice to meet you, Ethan." They talked for a while. She told him about her school and how she wanted to become a doctor someday. Ethan listened with big, curious eyes. "Doctors help people walk again, right?" he asked. "Sometimes yes," she said softly. "Maybe one day I can help kids like you." He grinned. "Then I hope you become a doctor soon." Amara laughed. "Me too." Not far away, sitting on a bench under the shade, a man watched them. He was tall, dressed in a clean gray suit with silver hair and a face that looked both strong and tired. He had been on a phone call but had stopped when he saw the whole scene. He was Mr. Lawson, Ethan's father, a man who owned companies, buildings, and lands, yet carried loneliness inside his heart. When Amara had stepped in to defend Ethan, Mr. Lawson had frozen. He saw her fearless eyes, her trembling hands that still didn't give up, and the kindness she showed afterward. For years he had paid bodyguards, doctors, and teachers, but none of them had made his son smile the way this girl just did. After a few minutes, he walked toward them. "Ethan," he said softly, and the boy turned. "Dad!" Ethan's face lit up. "This is Amara. She helped me." Mr. Lawson looked at the girl and smiled faintly. "I saw that," he said. "Thank you, Amara. You were very brave." Amara shrugged. "Anyone would do the same." The billionaire looked at her closely. There was no pride in her tone, no desire for praise, and only simple honesty. That touched him deeply. For a man who lived in a world of money and fake smiles, her words felt pure and real. As Amara waved goodbye and walked home, Mr. Lawson kept watching her until she disappeared down the street. Something in his heart shifted that day, a feeling he hadn't known for a long time. He didn't know her story yet. He didn't know how hard her life was. But one thing was sure. This girl had courage, and she had changed something inside him. And that was only the beginning. The next morning, Amara woke up early. The memory of the little boy from the park stayed in her heart. She smiled thinking about his shy grin and how happy he looked after they talked. It felt good to help someone, even for a few minutes, but she had no idea that her small act of kindness was about to change her life. Amara lived with her mother in a tiny apartment on the city's edge. The walls were cracked, and the ceiling sometimes leaked during rain. Her mother, Mrs. Grace, worked long hours as a cleaner in offices. She left before sunrise and came home late at night, her hands always tired but her spirit strong. They didn't have much, but Grace always told her, "Amara, be kind and brave. That's worth more than gold." After breakfast, Amara walked to school. The streets were busy, full of people rushing to work, buses honking and the smell of fresh bread from a corner bakery. She carried her old backpack and smiled to herself, not knowing that someone was looking for her that very morning. Mr. Lawson. That same morning, in a large mansion across town, Mr. Lawson sat in his study with his assistant, David. His house was silent except for the sound of a clock ticking. The walls were lined with books and old paintings, but they didn't bring him joy. He stared out the window, remembering the brave girl from the park. "Find out who that girl was," Mr. Lawson said quietly, his voice calm but firm. David blinked. "The girl from yesterday, sir?" "Yes," Lawson replied. "She helped my son. I want to know her name, where she studies, everything." David nodded quickly. "Of course, sir. I'll get the details." Ethan, sitting in his wheelchair near the window, overheard the conversation. "Dad," he said softly, "you don't have to do anything big. She's just nice. She said anyone would help." Mr. Lawson smiled faintly. "That's exactly why she's special, son. Not everyone would help, but she did." By the afternoon, Amara was walking home from school when a black car slowly stopped beside her. The window rolled down and she froze for a moment. Inside was the same man from the park, dressed in a dark blue suit, his eyes gentle this time. "Amara?" he said kindly. She nodded, surprised. "Yes, sir. I'm Mr. Lawson. We met yesterday. I was with my son, Ethan." Amara's eyes widened. "Oh, yes, of course. How is he?" "He's doing much better," Lawson said, smiling. "Actually, he hasn't stopped talking about you. He wanted to see you again. Would you join us for a little walk in the park?" Amara hesitated. It felt strange. She wasn't used to talking with rich people or riding in fancy cars. But when she thought of Ethan's smiling face, she nodded. "Okay, just for a while." The park looked different that day. The golden sun was setting and the air smelled of flowers and grass. Ethan's wheelchair rolled down the path as Amara walked beside him. Mr. Lawson followed slowly, watching them talk and laugh like old friends. "You read a lot, don't you?" Ethan asked, noticing her backpack full of books. "Yes," she said, smiling. "Books take me to other worlds. They make me forget how small my room is." Ethan laughed softly. "I like that." Mr. Lawson listened silently. He had seen people flatter him for his money, but this girl didn't even care who he was. She spoke with honesty, warmth, and a little spark in her voice that reminded him of something he had lost long ago. Hope. After a while, they sat on a bench under a tree. The air turned cool and peaceful. Mr. Lawson finally spoke. "Amara, may I ask, what do you dream of becoming?" Amara looked down for a moment, shy. "A doctor," she said finally. "I want to help people who can't help themselves. Like Ethan, but it's hard. Medical school is expensive, and my mom can barely pay my school fees. Still, I'll try my best." Her words were simple, but they carried truth and courage. Mr. Lawson felt something stir inside him again. He had everything money could buy, but not this kind of spirit. "You have a kind heart," he said quietly. "That's rare," Amara smiled politely. "Thank you, sir. But kindness doesn't cost anything. It's free." Lawson looked at her, really looked at her. She wasn't asking for help or sympathy. She was content even with little. That humbled him deeply. As the sky turned orange and purple, Ethan yawned sleepily. Mr. Lawson stood up and said, "It's getting late. We should go home. Amara, may I offer you a ride?" She shook her head quickly. "No, sir. I'll walk. It's not far. But thank you." Mr. Lawson respected her answer. "Very well," he said with a smile. "But I'll see you again soon, Amara." When she waved goodbye, he stood by the car for a moment, watching her walk away. Ethan looked up at his father. "You like her, don't you?" Mr. Lawson chuckled softly. "Yes, I do. She reminds me of something I forgot, how to be human." That night, as Amara returned home, she told her mother about the meeting. Grace listened with wide eyes. "A billionaire talked to you?" she said, shocked. Amara laughed. "Yes, but he was nice. Not proud at all. His son is wonderful too," Grace smiled. "Maybe God sent them for a reason." Amara didn't know it yet, but her mother's words were true. That small meeting, that simple walk in the park, was the beginning of a bond that would change all their lives forever. Days turned into weeks, and Amara's life slowly went back to its normal rhythm: school, home helping her mother, and reading under the same old tree in the park. But sometimes she would meet Ethan and his father, Mr. Lawson, there again. They would talk, laugh, and share snacks. Ethan liked to ask her questions about everything: the stars, animals, even her dreams. Mr. Lawson often sat quietly nearby, reading or watching them from a distance. He had learned to enjoy silence again, something he hadn't felt for years. His son's laughter was music to him, and it all began after that one day when Amara stood up for Ethan. But behind every smile in their small circle, there were deep hidden pains that none of them had fully shared yet. Amara's world at home, things were not easy. Amara's mother worked 2 jobs, cleaning offices during the day and washing dishes at a restaurant at night. The bills were never ending, and sometimes they had to choose between paying rent or buying enough food. Amara studied by candlelight because their electricity often got cut off. She never complained, though. She knew her mother was doing her best, but sometimes when Grace thought Amara was asleep, she sat in the dark and cried softly. Amara once asked her, "Mama, why are you sad?" Her mother wiped her tears and smiled. "I'm not sad, my love. Just tired." Amara understood. Life was heavy, but love made it bearable. Every morning she walked past tall buildings and rich houses on her way to school. She often wondered what it would be like to live in one, with warm lights, soft carpets, and full meals. But she never let jealousy grow in her heart. She told herself, maybe I can reach that life one day, but with my own hard work. Mr. Lawson's world. Meanwhile, in his large mansion across town, Mr. Lawson lived in quiet luxury. But inside he was lonely. The house was beautiful but empty of laughter, except when Ethan smiled. Years ago, Mr. Lawson's wife, Clara, had died in a car accident. Ethan was only 5 then. Since that day, Mr. Lawson had buried himself in work, thinking success could fill the hole in his heart. But no amount of money could replace the warmth of family. He loved Ethan deeply, but didn't know how to show it. His busy life kept him away, and Ethan grew up mostly with nannies and nurses. Until Amara came along, she treated Ethan not as a rich boy or a disabled child, but as a friend, an equal. That touched Mr. Lawson deeply. Sometimes he would stand by the window of his study, watching Ethan and Amara talking in the garden. He would whisper to himself, "That girl has something special, something pure." Ethan's world had been small before Amara. His wheelchair made him feel trapped. Kids at school looked at him with pity, and some even avoided him. He used to think, maybe I'm broken. Maybe I'll always be alone. But Amara didn't treat him differently. She never said poor boy or sorry. She talked to him like he was normal, like he mattered. And that made him feel strong for the first time in years. He would often tell his dad, "Amara is like sunshine, Dad. When she's here, everything feels lighter." Mr. Lawson would smile and nod. He agreed more than words could say. 2 worlds collide one Saturday afternoon. Amara was helping her mother at the small laundry shop down the street when a black car stopped outside. The driver stepped out and handed her an envelope. "From Mr. Lawson," he said politely. Amara's heart jumped. She opened it quickly. Inside was a short letter written neatly. "Dear Amara, Ethan would love to invite you and your mother for dinner at our home tomorrow evening. It would be an honor to have you both." Mr. Lawson, her eyes widened. She had never been invited to a rich man's house before. She ran to show her mother, her voice full of excitement. Grace was silent for a long moment. "Dinner at a billionaire's mansion?" she whispered. "Amara, are you sure this is not a mistake?" Amara shook her head. "No, Mama, he's kind." They just want to thank us, Grace smiled nervously. Then we must look our best. That night they ironed their cleanest clothes even though they were simple. Amara's dress was old but neat, and Grace's scarf had a small tear she sewed carefully. They didn't have fancy shoes, but they polished what they had. The realization at the mansion. Mr. Lawson was preparing too, not with gold plates or luxury, but with warmth. He told his staff, no fancy food tonight. Just make it simple and homely. Ethan was too excited to sit still. Dad, will Amara like our house? Mr. Lawson smiled. I think she'll like us more than the house. As the clock ticked toward 7, the doorbell finally rang. The butler opened the door, and there they stood. Amara and her mother, humble yet graceful. For a moment, the grand mansion seemed smaller, quieter, because the real beauty had just walked in. Mr. Lawson came forward with a smile. Welcome, Amara, Mrs. Grace. We're so happy you came. Grace smiled politely. Thank you, sir. We're honored. Ethan rolled up to them, grinning wide. You came, he said joyfully. Amara laughed. Of course I did. I promised you, didn't I? As they walked in, something beautiful filled the room. Not the glow of chandeliers or the smell of rich food, but the warmth of real connection. For Mr. Lawson, it was the first time in years his home felt alive again. And for Amara, it was the first time she felt that maybe, just maybe, kindness could build a bridge between two completely different worlds. The evening was calm when Amara and her mother reached the big mansion on the hill. The tall gates opened slowly, revealing bright lights, a long driveway, and a fountain that sparkled like silver under the moon. Amara felt nervous. Her hands were cold even though the air was warm. She whispered, Mama, maybe we shouldn't have come. This place is too big for us. Her mother smiled softly and held her hand. Don't be scared, my child. Kind people live everywhere and even in big houses. Inside, the house looked like a dream. Crystal lights hung from the ceiling, soft music played in the background, and everything smelled of roses and fresh bread. Mr. Lawson was waiting for them near the grand staircase, wearing a simple gray suit, not his usual business look. Ethan, in his wheelchair, rushed forward with a big grin. You came, he shouted happily. Amara laughed and bent down beside him. Of course I came. I promised, didn't I? Mr. Lawson greeted her mother respectfully. Mrs. Grace, welcome. Please feel at home. Grace smiled shyly. Thank you, sir. Your home is beautiful. Mr. Lawson nodded. It's beautiful tonight because of our guests. Those words made Grace blush with surprise. She wasn't used to such kindness from rich people, dinner with warm hearts. They sat around a large table, but the meal was simple, roasted chicken, vegetables, and soft bread. No servant stood nearby watching them, only Mr. Lawson, Ethan, and their two guests. The billionaire wanted the night to feel like family. Ethan talked nonstop, excited to share stories about his books, his therapy sessions, and how Amara taught him to laugh at himself instead of feeling weak. Amara listened with joy, her laughter brightening the room. Her mother watched quietly, her eyes shining with pride. At one point, Mr. Lawson asked Amara, So what are you studying now? I'm in my last year of high school, she replied. After that, I want to study medicine. I want to help people, especially children like Ethan. Ethan's face lit up. You'd be the best doctor ever, he said confidently. Amara giggled. You think so? I know so, he said with a grin. Mr. Lawson's eyes softened as he watched them. There was something powerful about the way Amara spoke. No greed, no show-off, just honesty and hope. It reminded him of his late wife Clara, who used to say, Real hearts don't need wealth to shine. He asked quietly, Amara, what made you want to become a doctor? Amara looked down for a moment before answering. When I was little, my grandmother got very sick. We didn't have money to take her to the hospital. I watched her suffer, and I promised myself that one day I'd help people like her. I don't want anyone to feel helpless. There was silence for a moment, the kind that touches the soul. Mr. Lawson swallowed hard. For the first time in years, he felt emotion rise in his chest. Grace reached over and touched her daughter's hand gently. She's been saying that since she was 10, she whispered proudly. A father's reflection. After dinner, Mr. Lawson invited them to the garden. The night was peaceful, and small lights glowed around the trees. The air was cool, and Ethan was playing with his small robot toy while Amara pushed his wheelchair slowly across the stone path. Mr. Lawson walked beside Grace. "Your daughter is remarkable," he said. "She has courage and heart. I see something in her that the world needs more of." Grace smiled softly. "Thank you, sir. She's all I have. I raised her alone. Her father left when she was just a baby. We've had hard days, but Amara never gave up. She always finds a reason to smile." Mr. Lawson nodded slowly. Her words touched him more deeply than she knew. He too had been alone for years, trying to fill an empty space with work and money. Now, seeing this young girl and her mother reminded him what truly mattered. He turned toward Amara, who was helping Ethan pick flowers. Their laughter filled the air like a song. At that moment, Mr. Lawson made a quiet decision in his heart, one that would change Amara's life forever. The gentle offer as the night grew late, they gathered again near the entrance. Grace thanked him for the evening. "You have been too kind, Mr. Lawson. We'll never forget this night." Mr. Lawson smiled. "Please call me Richard," he said gently. Amara looked surprised. "That's your first name?" He chuckled. "Yes, and only a few people use it. But I'd like you both to." Before they could leave, he took out a small white envelope and handed it to Grace. "This is just a small thank you for everything your daughter has done for my son." Grace hesitated. "Oh no, sir, we can't accept money." Mr. Lawson shook his head. "It's not money," he said softly. Grace slowly opened it. Inside was an invitation letter printed neatly with golden letters. It said, "Full scholarship awarded to Miss Amara Grace for medical studies at Lawson University Foundation." Amara gasped. Her eyes filled with tears. "Sir, what is this?" "It's a chance," he said kindly. "You gave my son his smile back. Let me give you your dream." Grace covered her mouth, her hands shaking. "Oh my God. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much." Amara couldn't speak. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she whispered, "I don't know what to say." Mr. Lawson smiled warmly. "Just promise me you'll never lose that heart of yours. That's all I ask." A night to remember. As they left, Ethan waved from his wheelchair. "Don't forget to visit Dr. Amara." Amara laughed through her tears. "I'll never forget you, Ethan." When she stepped out into the cool night air, she looked up at the stars. For the first time, the sky didn't seem far. Her dream, once impossible, was now within reach. And behind her, Mr. Lawson stood at the doorway, watching with quiet pride. He knew he hadn't just helped someone. He had found the missing piece of his own heart. The night after the dinner at Mr. Lawson's mansion, Amara couldn't sleep. She lay awake staring at the ceiling, her heart racing with excitement and disbelief. Her dream, the dream she thought was impossible, was suddenly within reach. On the small wooden table beside her bed lay the invitation letter, glowing softly under the light of the moon. She had read it at least 20 times, but each time it felt unreal. A full scholarship to study medicine, her biggest wish, now offered to her by the man whose son she had defended just weeks ago. Her mother, Grace, sat quietly beside her, watching her daughter's shining eyes. "You see, Amara," she whispered softly, "sometimes when you do good for others, life finds a way to return that kindness." Amara smiled but shook her head slowly. "Mama, I didn't do anything special. I only helped Ethan because it was the right thing." Grace touched her cheek gently. "That's what makes it special." The morning of doubt, the next morning, Amara woke early and looked at the letter again. For a moment, her excitement turned to fear. What if this is too much? She thought. What if I don't deserve it? She knew people in her neighborhood would never believe that a billionaire wanted to help a girl like her. Some would say she was lucky. Others might say worse things. When she reached school that day, a few classmates had already heard about the scholarship. "Wow, Amara," one girl said with fake surprise. "A billionaire just gives you free education? You must be really special, huh?" Amara could hear the jealousy hidden behind those words. She forced a small smile. "No, I just met the right people at the right time," she said quietly. But deep inside she was struggling. She didn't want people to think she got help because she was poor or because someone pitied her. She wanted to earn her success, to deserve it. A visit to the mansion. That afternoon she decided to visit Mr. Lawson's mansion to talk to him. She wanted to thank him, and maybe even tell him she couldn't accept the offer. When she arrived, Ethan was in the garden, painting with bright colors. His face lit up the moment he saw her. "Amara, you came," he said, waving his paintbrush excitedly. She laughed. "Yes, but I came to see your dad too." Mr. Lawson appeared soon after, wearing a light sweater instead of his usual formal suit. He smiled warmly. "Amara, I was hoping you'd come." Amara hesitated for a moment, then spoke softly. "Sir, I wanted to thank you for your kindness, but I can't accept this scholarship." Mr. Lawson's smile faded slightly. "May I ask why?" "I didn't earn it," she said. "There are so many other students who study harder than me. I only did what anyone would do." "You've already done too much." Mr. Lawson looked at her, his eyes kind but serious. "Amara, do you really believe that anyone would do what you did that day?" She looked down. "Maybe not everyone, but—" He interrupted gently. "Most people walk away from trouble, but you didn't. You stood up for someone you didn't even know. That shows courage, and courage is rarer than talent. It's the kind of heart this world needs in its doctors." Amara's eyes filled with tears. His words hit deep. "But sir," she whispered, "it still feels too big. I don't want people to think I was bought or pitied." Mr. Lawson smiled softly. "Then don't think of it as a gift. Think of it as an investment, in goodness, in hope, and in your future. You changed my son's life without asking for anything. Now let me help you change the world." Ethan's words. Ethan, who had been listening quietly from his wheelchair, suddenly spoke up. "Amara," he said seriously, "you have to take it." She turned to him, surprised. "Why?" "Because you promised you'd be a doctor one day," Ethan said. "And I want to see you in a white coat helping kids like me. That's not pity, that's purpose." His words made her smile through her tears. She walked to him and bent down. "You really think I can do it?" He nodded quickly. "I know you can." Mr. Lawson looked at his son proudly. "You see? Even he believes in you." Amara took a deep breath. She could feel her fear slowly melting away, replaced by something stronger. Hope, a promise. Made finally, she stood tall and looked at Mr. Lawson. "Okay," she said softly. "I'll accept your offer, but only if you promise me one thing." Mr. Lawson raised an eyebrow. "And what is that?" "Promise that I'll have to work hard for it," she said. "I don't want anything to be easy just because someone helped me." Mr. Lawson smiled, a deep, proud smile. "Deal," he said. "You'll work hard and I'll make sure you never give up. That's our promise." Amara's heart felt light again. She shook his hand. Firm, steady, like she was shaking hands with destiny itself. The beginning of change. As she left the mansion, Ethan called out, "Goodbye, Dr. Amara." She turned and laughed. "Not yet. Soon," Ethan shouted back with a grin. Mr. Lawson watched them both, his heart full. He had spent years building buildings, companies, and empires, but this moment, this simple connection, felt like the greatest thing he had ever done. When Amara walked back home, the sky was glowing with the colors of sunset, orange, gold, and pink. She looked up and whispered, "Thank you, God, for this chance. I won't waste it." That night, she placed the scholarship letter under her pillow and fell asleep with tears of gratitude in her eyes. Because deep down, she finally believed what Mr. Lawson had told her. One act of courage could truly change everything. The morning sun touched Amara's window softly, painting golden lines across her room. Birds sang outside and the city woke slowly. But inside that small apartment, something felt different. Amara wasn't just a poor girl from the old neighborhood anymore. She was a girl with a future, a girl with a purpose. Her scholarship papers lay neatly on the table beside her school books. Every time she looked at them, she remembered Mr. Lawson's words. "You changed my son's life. Now let me help you change the world." Those words gave her strength every single day. Her mother, Grace, stood in the kitchen making breakfast. Bread and tea, their simple routine. "Come on, doctor," she called with a laugh. "You'll be late for school." Amara smiled from her bed. She wasn't a doctor yet, but hearing that word made her heart beat faster. A step toward the dream months passed quickly. Amara worked harder than ever before. She spent late nights studying and early mornings helping her mother. Every test she took, every assignment she finished, she did it with a fire inside her heart. Her teachers noticed the change. "You're glowing these days, Amara," one of them said. "You seem unstoppable," Amara only smiled. "I just found a reason to try harder, ma'am." When graduation day came, Grace wore her cleanest dress and sat proudly in the front row. Her eyes filled with tears when she heard her daughter's name announced as one of the top students. Amara walked across the stage, shaking hands with the headmaster, her heart bursting with pride. After the ceremony, she saw Mr. Lawson and Ethan waiting near the gate. Ethan's face was bright, his wheelchair decorated with blue ribbons. "You did it," he shouted. Amara laughed and ran to hug him. "We did it," she said. "You believed in me when I didn't." Mr. Lawson smiled quietly. "I told you the world needs your heart, Amara, and today, you proved me right." The first day of university a few months later, Amara stood at the gates of Lawson University, the same institution named after the man who changed her life. The tall buildings, wide lawns, and shining glass windows made her feel small, but not scared. She looked around at students with expensive clothes and fancy bags. Some stared at her simple dress, but Amara didn't care. She wasn't there to impress anyone. She was there to learn, to grow, and to make her dream real. Her first class was in anatomy. The moment she sat in the lecture hall, her hands trembled a little. The professor entered, speaking fast and serious, but Amara listened carefully, taking notes with passion. When the class ended, one of her classmates, a tall girl named Sophia, smiled and said, "Hey, you take great notes. Mind if I study with you sometime?" Amara's face brightened. "Of course. I'd like that." That small act of kindness marked the start of her new friendships, her new world, a family that grows every weekend. Amara visited Ethan and Mr. Lawson. Their bond had grown stronger than ever. Ethan had begun walking short distances with the help of therapy, and every time he took a step, Amara clapped like a proud sister. "You're doing it," she would cheer. Ethan would laugh. "Only because you keep yelling at me." They both laughed together, and even Mr. Lawson couldn't stop smiling. Sometimes they all sat in the garden drinking tea. Grace joined them too, and it felt like family, not by blood, but by choice. One afternoon, as the sun set behind the mansion, Mr. Lawson looked at Amara and said, "You've brought light into this house, Amara. You gave Ethan hope again. And you gave me something money couldn't buy, peace." Amara's eyes softened. "You gave me a chance, sir. You believed in me when I had nothing. You changed everything." Mr. Lawson smiled faintly. "Maybe we saved each other." Hard work and Hart University life wasn't easy. There were nights when Amara felt lost, tired, and overwhelmed. She sometimes stayed up until dawn, reading medical books, her eyes burning. But every time she felt weak, she remembered Ethan's small smile and Mr. Lawson's faith in her. Whenever she called home, her mother's voice gave her courage. "Keep going, my child," Grace would say. "Every hard day is a step closer to your dream." And so Amara kept going. Her professors began to notice her determination. One day after class, a doctor named Professor Martin stopped her. "Amara," he said kindly, "you remind me of someone who truly wants to make a difference. Keep that fire alive. Someday you'll do great things." Amara smiled, her heart full. "Thank you, sir. I'll do my best." The seed of change. By the end of her first year, Amara was among the top students in her batch. She volunteered at the Children's Hospital during weekends, helping young patients smile and read stories. She didn't get paid, but she didn't need to. Every thank you from a small child was worth more than gold. One day, as she pushed a little girl's wheelchair through the hospital garden, the child looked up and said, "You're kind. Miss Amara, you remind me of an angel." Amara laughed softly, her eyes glistening. "No, sweetheart. I'm just someone who wants to help." At that exact moment, Mr. Lawson and Ethan arrived to surprise her with flowers. Ethan waved a big card that said, "Proud of you." Amara gasped and ran to hug them both. "You didn't have to do this," she said. Mr. Lawson smiled warmly. "We wanted to. You see, Amara, this is just the beginning. Your real story is only starting." Amara looked around at the children, the flowers, the hospital lights, and she realized he was right. Her life had changed, but her mission was just beginning. She whispered quietly to herself, "A new beginning. Yes, this is where I truly start." Years passed like the turning pages of a beautiful story. Amara was no longer the shy girl who once read books under the old oak tree. She had grown into a confident young woman, graceful, kind, and wise. The world had changed around her, but she never forgot where her journey began. Now she stood in front of the Amara Grace Community Health Center, a brand new clinic in her old neighborhood. The building wasn't big or fancy, but it was filled with warmth, color, and hope. On the front wall, a sign read, "Healing Hearts, Changing Lives." Tears glimmered in Amara's eyes as she looked up at it. This was her dream, finally real. The day of the opening, it was a bright Saturday morning. Balloons floated outside the clinic gate and children laughed as they ran around. Neighbors gathered in excitement, and local reporters were setting up their cameras. Grace, her mother, stood proudly near the entrance, wearing a clean white dress. She had grown older, her hair now sprinkled with silver, but her smile was just as bright. She watched her daughter with tears of joy. Mr. Lawson's car arrived quietly. When the door opened, he stepped out slowly, looking elegant as always, but his face carried warmth instead of distance. Beside him was Ethan, no longer a little boy in a wheelchair, but a young man walking with a slight limp and a confident smile. When Amara saw them, she ran forward, her eyes wet with happiness. "Mr. Lawson, Ethan!" Ethan laughed. "It's just Ethan now. You're the doctor here." Amara hugged them both tightly. "I can't believe you're here." Mr. Lawson smiled softly. "Of course we're here. We wouldn't miss this for the world. You made us a promise, and you kept it." A speech from the heart. As the crowd gathered, Amara stepped onto a small wooden stage. Her hands trembled a little as she looked at all the faces before her, faces she had known since childhood. Some of them had watched her grow up, others had doubted she would ever make it this far. She took a deep breath and began to speak. "Good morning, everyone. Many years ago, right here in this neighborhood, a poor girl had a big dream, to become a doctor and help her people. Everyone told her it was impossible. But then something beautiful happened. Kindness found her." Her eyes turned to Mr. Lawson and Ethan. "One day I defended a boy who couldn't defend himself. I didn't do it for a reward. I just did what I thought was right. But that small act changed my life forever. It connected me to a family that showed me what faith, love, and opportunity can do." She paused as tears rolled down her cheeks. "Today I open this clinic not for myself, but for every child who thinks their dream is too far away. For every mother who prays for a better tomorrow. For everyone who believes kindness still matters." The crowd clapped, some wiping their eyes. Mr. Lawson felt his chest tighten with emotion. He had seen countless speeches in business meetings, but none had ever touched his soul like this one. The gift returned. When the applause faded, Amara looked at Ethan and smiled. "You once told me I'd wear a white coat one day." "You were right." Ethan laughed and nodded. "I told you I'm always right." Then Amara turned to Mr. Lawson. "And you, sir? You gave me more than education. You gave me faith in people again. You showed me that real wealth isn't about money. It's about helping others rise." Mr. Lawson walked up to the stage and placed his hand gently on her shoulder. "No, Amara, you showed me that. You reminded me what life is truly about. You helped me be a better father and a better man." Amara smiled through her tears. "Then maybe we saved each other after all." The crowd clapped again, louder this time, and the moment felt magical, a full circle of kindness completed. Inside the clinic after the ceremony, Amara led them on a tour inside. The walls were painted soft blue, the same color Ethan once said reminded him of hope. Every room had a window with sunlight streaming in. There were small beds, shelves of medicine, and drawings made by children from the neighborhood. In one corner hung a framed photograph, Amara, Ethan and Mr. Lawson in the park years ago, on the day they first met. Underneath, a small plaque read, "One small act of courage can change a life forever." Ethan stopped to look at it. "Wow," he whispered. "That day feels like yesterday." Amara smiled gently. "I remember every second of it." Mr. Lawson stood beside them, his eyes glistening. "That was the day everything began," he said softly. "The day my son found a friend, and I found hope." The circle of kindness. Before leaving, Amara handed Mr. Lawson an envelope. "This is for you," she said. He opened it and found a certificate with gold writing, "The Lawson Family Foundation," as an official partner of her clinic. "I wanted to name it after you," Amara said. "Because without you and Ethan, this place wouldn't exist." Mr. Lawson smiled deeply, his voice shaking slightly. "Thank you, Amara, but the truth is, this belongs to you. You earned every part of it." Ethan hugged her tightly. "You did it, Dr. Amara, you really did it." Amara hugged him back. "No, Ethan, we did it together." The sun set of gratitude as the sun began to set. The sky turned gold and pink again, the same colors Amara remembered from the evening she accepted Mr. Lawson's offer years ago. The crowd slowly left, and silence filled the air. Amara stood at the clinic's door watching children play outside. Mr. Lawson and Grace stood nearby, smiling proudly. Ethan waved as he walked toward the car. Amara looked up at the sky and whispered softly, "Thank you, God, for everything." And in that moment she realized the truth. Her journey had started with courage, grown through kindness, and ended with purpose. It wasn't just a story about luck or charity. It was a story about how one small act of love can echo through many lives and come full circle, like destiny's perfect design.